2001, A Space Odyssey, written and directed by Stanley Kubrick. This is a philosophical breakdown of the film. So the movie begins with this ominous synthesizer music playing over a black screen for a few minutes, just blank screen. This is going to set us up for the rest of the movie. My interpretation of this part of the film is that it is pre-existence. So the entire movie is encapsulating this theme of existence from beginning to end, the alpha and the omega, theme that's common in most religions and philosophies. And so this is going to set us up, this idea that there is this emptiness, this vast emptiness that existed possibly before the beginnings of time. The notions of an unmoved mover, Aristotle's concept of there needing to be some kind of creator that is going to spark something in the universe. So we directly go into the MGM logo, and then from there, the piece by Johann Strauss, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, starts to play, and we get this sunrise coming up in alignment over the earth and the moon, and you get this sunrise coming up, and then we come into showing the earth. So here we have this the planets appearing into the vast darkness. So it's this notion of order within the universe. Again, this creator, something is creating, something is happening in the universe. We get this pre-Socratic dialogue of the beginning of the physical world. So the blackness offers insight into the possible eternal existence of all things, but then we have this creation happening. So another thing that I noted about this, the song in particular, we have Nietzsche's book Thus Spoke Zarathustra with the song, and then this notion of eternality. So I get the already off the bat, I get this idea that there's going to be this idea of possible good and evil dialectic tension, and morally dualistic concepts within the movie. So we open up, we show the earth is empty, and there's just vast plains of nothingness, desert lands, and then we come up to these animals. There's animals existing, but right before the animals come into play, we are shown these skeletons. There's this animal skull. They look possibly human. Some of them are possibly human skeletons. So again, this idea that this is not the first time that this has happened. So there's something happening here where there's some pre-existence, some kind of possible flood theory. So we have this skeletons, and then animals come in, and then so the monkeys and the other mammals, they're living. Seems like they're living in peace together. We have these different mammals. They look like anteaters. I'm not sure exactly what kind of animals they are. With the monkeys, they're living together. They're coexisting. And then tension begins to grow as we see a leopard attack one of these apes and then mauls it to death. So we have this survival sort of concept coming into play now. From here, I get the idea that we have this Darwinism, survival of the fittest, so we're going to probably have some kind of evolutionary theme here. It gets quiet again. The film gets quiet, and it gets dark. And you see, like, the monkeys are going to sleep, the animals are all going to sleep, but they're still kind of like in the survival mode as they're going to sleep. You see this close-up of this ape, just kind of like paranoid, but also going to sleep. It's sort of calm before the storm is the concept that I got from this little scene. And then we wake up, and there's this black, almost floating monolith right in front of the monkeys, and they start to go ape, so to speak. And so we have this slick black monolith. It looks like nothing else in the surrounding area. It's gigantic, it's huge, and the monkeys start just going crazy around this thing. And one of them eventually approach it and they touch it, and they all kind of begin to almost worship this black monolith. Let's see, and then we see, so as they're touching this monolith, the camera angle changes and we see the sun rising up over the monolith in alignment, as we saw with the planets, with the Earth and the Moon in the beginning scene when we first saw something coming into the vast nothingness. Now it's this idea that the planets were something, and then we have the sun coming over the monolith. Now this monolith is this new thing, and they are worshiping, and it's this concept of it's this religious concept that from the dawn of time we as people needed something to worship, and it's also a technological type of thing. So we get this technological worship where it's new, it's something, and then we're shown these monkeys. Actually, one monkey in particular, one of these apes, starts to, it looks like he's thinking, he's rationalizing, and he grabs one of the bones and he starts using it as like a hammer. And then we cut to this scene where we have this ape. He uses this bone to kill and eat another animal. So we get this concept again of evolutionary. We have this evolution, survival of the fittest. The monkeys, the apes are gaining sentience. They're gaining rationality. They're coming into existence, so to speak, within their consciousness. So yes, a sense of awareness. So we go through all this, then we have the monkeys fighting each other. This dialectic tension of good versus evil, survival of the fittest. So there's a group of monkeys that have sort of evolved, and they're attacking another group of the apes that have not evolved yet, and they're gaining control over this little area. Mostly the resources. So they're actually fighting over water, I think was what it was, and there's a puddle of water. So they're fighting over the water. They're fighting, and it's a desert, so there's not much water. So they're gaining territory over this pond in order to be able to have access to water. There's not enough for everybody, so this group of monkeys that has evolved to use this bone or start attacking, and then they kill one of their own. So then we go directly into this Darwinistic concept of we're going to kill off the stupid, the unintelligent. They don't live anymore. We evolve, we grow into something new. The ape throws the bone into the sky, and the camera changes and shows the bone kind of morphs into, well, just changes instantly into a spacecraft floating in space in the abyss, right? So we have the abyss from the beginning, all the black, and then now we have the black sky, or the black emptiness of space with some stars in the distance, but this one spacecraft. So it's like the bone was the first technology. Now we have this spacecraft we've propelled into the future. I already get the sense that time is not really of the essence here. That time it's almost as if everything is happening concurrently. So I'm going to keep that in mind for later, because that comes into play again. We have another Johann Strauss piece here. Blue Danube Waltz plays. So we have this ballet theme where the spacecraft is floating around elegantly in space. Everything is floating, and then we go into the spacecraft, and this theme is playing, and everything's kind of floating around the spacecraft. The idea that gravity is relative, everything's subjective. So we have this taking this back to the notion of the dialectical tension of good and evil, the theme of Nietzsche's book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. We have this good and evil tension, and then we have this, it's this subjectivity of morality. It's kind of tying in the subjectivity of gravity, the subjectivity of time, the subjectivity of morality. All of these things are just subjective. But now we see the humans, we see the people on the spacecraft, they're fully evolved into humans. They've achieved maximal intelligence. They're living in space. It seems like they're just living up there. We don't know yet if there's anyone still on Earth. Are they just living on this spacecraft? This unknown, still this concept of the unknown. Let's see. People are now completely civilized. They appear to be almost robotic. So this emotion has left them almost. It seems to be like emotion is a lesser degree of intelligence. So we have this man overcoming emotion, man overcoming his humanity. It's sort of emotion is a primitive aspect of man. We have this scene where the computer asks for the spacemen. The computer asks for their name and then their Christian name. So we get this idea that Christianity was a phase of human evolution. It was something that, or religion itself was a phase of human evolution. It was just something that we needed to get by to evolve. So we have this scene with the daughter having her birthday, and the father is in space, and the father is this Captain Floyd. He's this doctor who is manning this spacecraft. Floyd is talking to his daughter. He's having this telephone call from space. So we know there's still people on Earth. It seems like she's on Earth, and he asks about her mom, and you know, the mom's not there. And so there's all this stuff that's this you know, birthdays are not as important as they probably once were. You wouldn't miss your children's birthdays. So now we're beyond emotion. We're moving past emotion, but there's still this notion that it's there because it's important enough to call and say happy birthday, but it's not important enough for him to be there or for the mother to be there. So we have this going on. We have this food. They have these little boxes of kind of prepackaged food, and you know, later they make a comment about how the food almost tastes real. So we know this food is like genetically modified. It's engineered. It's not real food anymore. So again, surpassing the senses, depleting the senses to the degree of lesser importance, lesser intelligence, to partake in these kinds of things. We have the moon landing, and as they're landing on the moon, the cockpit turns completely red. So we have this red cockpit. I took this as a symbolizing of like the man. It's almost the evil coming in, right? It's bad. Something bad is going to happen, possibly. Red is usually a symbol of something bad or evil or angry or something. So we have this red cockpit, and then we're shown the moon, and the moon is completely blue and glowing. And so we have this idea that we're evolving again. We're going from something primitive, something man-like, to the moon, where there's going to be this monolith again showing through. This monolith is showing on the moon, and they're going to see this monolith. And so it seems, I get the notion here that that man is trying to sustain itself and extend its finiteness through space exploration. So that's what they're doing here. They're going deeper into space. They're going to the moon, and you have this new technology on the moon, this monolith. And Floyd gives this speech to this other group of spacemen, and he mentions some sort of epidemic. They get this talk of some epidemic that might possibly be happening on Earth. It's still under wraps. They don't want to talk about it. So this idea that Earth is dying and man needs to continue on by exploring space, and that's how we can continue the story of humanity. So ties between technological advancement and discoveries with the epidemic and the finiteness of human life. We get conversations about conversations between the astronauts. Shows a bit of humanity left in the humans when talking about the taste of the fake sandwich meat here. They're sitting on the spacecraft eating the sandwiches and talking about how it almost tastes like meat. So no more meat. The discovery on the moon is confirmed as the root of the epidemic on Earth. There's some connection between the heavens and space and the physical world. All right, so we get this connection between physical and heavenly, and we're joining forces right now with this. It's coming together. We have this Aristotelian philosophical concept of actuality and potency becoming something greater through the advances of technology, being connected with evolution. So new discoveries in space affect the Earth. So this epidemic is something that's coming from where they're going, and you get hints that the monolith is why the epidemic is occurring, because they found this thing that life on Earth is no longer needed. We're growing, we're becoming something new. As the monolith is approached by the astronauts on the moon, they slowly approach this thing, and you get this ominous music coming back in. The synthesizer music is kind of coming back in, very ominous. The astronauts are approaching, similar to the apes, with caution. They're kind of looking around at it, and then we see Floyd touch the monolith with his hand, and then they go in front of the monolith. And again, this idea of worship, but through technology. Now we have this cameraman, and he's going to take a picture of all the astronauts in front of this thing. And again, it's this strangeness, this unknown that's in the universe that we just have this natural tendency to want to worship, want to figure out. And so they go to take this picture in front of the monolith, and this very high-pitched, so the ominous music turns into this really high-pitched, kind of disturbing, and they all cover their ears, and it's very disturbing and painful almost. So this evolutionary is painful. Evolution is painful and but inevitable. So then we get this new spacecraft. So we transition again to this new spacecraft in space. It's spherical in shape with strings of almost pyramid-like compartments attached behind it, stringing behind it. Again, another evolutionary concept. We're going deeper into space now. We enter into this spacecraft, and we have a new crew. We see a TV broadcast that this crew is traveling to Jupiter. So we get this information that they're going beyond the moon, again, beyond going through the path of evolution into space, and they're going to Jupiter this time. Now we're introduced to HAL 9000, the computer AI superior bot that is just completely it's all-knowing, it's omnipotent, it's omniscient, so it's incapable of error. All of the crew on this spaceship are cryogenically hibernating, so they're frozen in hibernation during space travel to be able to make it as far as they need to go. And there's also this idea that they are kind of sleeping through the journey. So we're trying to surpass that pain threshold that earlier in evolution was necessary for the next level. So now we can sleep through that. We don't have to feel that anymore. That sensation, that pain, that emotion, all those things are unintelligible. Those things are of a lesser degree of intelligence. So Hal states that he has the greatest job on their ship, and he is asked about his feelings. They're talking about how he seems to have feelings. So this is going to come into play pretty soon too. Hal notes that he is perfect, but still has use for the humans. So he is aware that he could possibly one day not have any use for humans anymore, and maybe exist on his own and move. So again, evolutionary concepts here. Evolution has propelled AI as an extension of man. So man is living off of Hal and this spaceship. They're living together, and Hal's feelings, being human-like, are questioned as unknowable. So he kind of, we don't know if he has true feelings, if he has real rational understanding, or if he is just programmed. But you get the sense that he is gaining rationality, he's gaining humanity. Humanity is deteriorated to be even more robotic, with almost no emotion or sensation during eating and communicating. So now we're going further into space. We're growing further beyond our physical understanding of the world, and we're introduced to our new crew members, Frank and Dave. Frank's parents send him a video to say happy birthday. So again, it's his birthday. They're telling him happy birthday, but it's not a phone call this time. So he's further off. He's gone. He's not able to make connection with the world the way he once was. We get these videos, but we have no more phone calls. So Frank's parents tell him happy birthday. The video turns off. He's kind of sitting there napping, relaxing. He's no emotion to this video. And then Hal tells Frank happy birthday, and he says thanks, Hal, and so they play chess. He tells them it was enjoyable. Hal says how it was enjoyable. So you get another sense of Hal trying to be human, right? He's saying happy birthday. He's playing chess and having a good time. So here we have the idea that robots and man have become more dependent on one another again. So Hal is able to see the ship and everything that goes on in it. So Hal is all-knowing. He's omnipotent. He's omniscient. He's godlike in this environment. He's able to question the morality of the mission in his conversation with Bowman. Bowman chalks this up to Hal doing a crew psychology report. So they're having this conversation, and Dave Bowman, he says, Hal, are you just doing your psychology report? And Hal says, yes, that's all I'm doing. But Hal is really questioning, well, do I really need these people? Do I need, maybe it seems like he's thinking I can get rid of them and I can complete this mission on my own. I don't need people to help me with this. So Hal is superior. The sense that Hal is acquiring human-like rationality again, it's quite apparent. Hal then reports a fault in the system. They check on this fault that Hal reports, and they tell him, they say, Hal, there's nothing wrong with the ship. And he says, well, that's funny because, I detected an error and I'm perfect. So they say, well, we didn't find an error. There's no error. And Hal says, well, it must be your fault. It must be because the humans programmed me in such a way that, he can't take responsibility for this fault in error. So they go into this pod and they turn down because they're getting a little skeptical, and they're saying, well, he's never had an error before, so why is there an error now? So they're getting a little skeptical what's going on. So they go to the pod, this little space pod that they use to travel outside of the ship, and they shut down all of the commands, and they make sure that Hal can't hear them. The camera is in front of them, but they make a grave error here when they start plotting against Hal. They talk about possibly shutting him down if they need to. Hal is reading their lips, so Hal can see what's going on. So they they go back out to try to fix this problem again, and you have right here, we have another long black ominous scene, and then we go into the scene where Frank goes out of the ship to fix this error, and Hal grabs Frank and hurls him into space using this pod. He commands control of this pod, grabs Frank and throws him into space, killing him. And so we go back to the monkeys, back to technology as being sort of a evolutionary tactic, but also something where we're killing off the lesser intelligence with this technology. So technology is killing off lesser intelligence, allowing for evolution to take place, to occur. So Dave goes out, he attempts to rescue Frank. He sees him floating in space, flying off, and he goes to rescue him in another one of these pods. And when he comes back, Hal refuses to let him back into the ship. So Frank is already dead. You can tell he's not moving. He's lost oxygen. And Dave is insisting that Hal open the doors, and Hal will not open the doors. He says he can't let him do that. He can't jeopardize the mission. So The mission is the most important thing here. The mission is evolution. The mission is growing beyond this dialectic of good and evil, getting beyond this. So using human will to become something greater, to become something. Technology is the thing that is going to be greater here. That's the idea that we get. Hal thinks that he is the greater thing. So Hal clearly has a concept of rationality at this point. We get this idea that technology has gained sentience, gained rationality, and it's overcoming human error. Hal's importance for the mission causes him to have this desire to get rid of the crew. Bowman's survival instincts kick in when Hal won't let him back into the ship, and we get Bowman using technology against technology. So now we have technology battling technology with when Bowman he tosses Frank, right? So he gets rid of the dead body of Frank, the lesser intelligent being, and now it's a battle between Bowman and Hal, because Bowman realizes that he can use the technology to get back into. He uses the pod to open the pod doors, and then he jumps out of the ship. He doesn't have a helmet, so he can't breathe. He jumps out of the ship in there into the pod compartment, and he immediately shuts the door, and he makes it. He gets back into the ship by the skin of his teeth. Once he gets in there, he immediately starts attacking Hal's central nervous system. He goes straight for, and this whole time he's walking towards Hal's computer nervous system, his central nervous system. Hal knows exactly what's going to happen. He starts pleading with him. His humanity starts showing even more. Hal starts saying that he doesn't want to die and all this kind of stuff. He's alluding to the fact that he doesn't want to die. He doesn't want to. So please, he's saying, please don't do what you're going to do. He says he learned from his mistakes and all this pleading, and Dave has become more robotic than ever. He just completely ignores Hal, and he goes to complete his mission, which is to shut Hal down. And he's not listening to anything. He's just got his eyes set on this mission to shut Hal down before Hal can do anything more to him. So you have this man versus technology, and man is obviously winning at this point. And again, as man is overcoming technology, he is also evolving himself, merging with the technology, so to speak. We also have the concept here that if Hal is shut down, then obviously Bowman has no more contact with Earth, and he's like on his way to Jupiter. He's far off, and he's all alone now. So he's by himself. Hal also, while Bowman was out trying to save Frank, Hal shut down all of the systems in the hibernation. So all of the other crew members are also killed. So Hal commits mass murder for all these spacemen, and then Bowman is the only survivor. And he's saying, Dave, please don't. And as Bowman's taking all of his, it's almost like these little chips or parts of his system. He's just taking them out, and Hal reduces back to his most primitive state before he goes and dies. You have this haunting scene of Hal singing Daisy in a very low, deep, slow voice as he deteriorates and completely shuts down. This video comes on here where let's see. So Hal in his last moments plays this video for Bowman, and it's a video talking about the monolith, revealing that this monolith is 4 million years old, and it's still a mystery. So they've put a date on it. Obviously there's no way they can know if it's 4 million years old. They've placed this date that it's got to be this many million years old, and we get the idea again of it eternally existed. The monolith is the thing that has been ever since the beginning, and it's black, it's slick, and every time anyone's around it, this ominous music plays. So it is the thing that exists from before time. That from the beginning of the movie, the blackness, the monolith is kind of like the symbol of this thing that has existed for all eternity. So that's where they're going, to Jupiter, to find this monolith again. And it exists everywhere. So we see that it exists on Earth, it exists on the moon, it exists on Jupiter. And then we see the monolith floating through space with Bowman. So he has almost joined forces with this thing. So now we go into this next chapter, Jupiter and the beyond the infinite. So he's going beyond the infinite here. He's going beyond time and space. As we see him floating with this monolith, we see Jupiter, we see everything in alignment. All of the planets now are in alignment, not just the sun and the moon and the earth, but all of the planets are in alignment, and Bowman is floating through space alongside this monolith, where we get this sense that he approaches the monolith. Again, I believe the sun was shown again over the monolith. Bowman is now, he's abandoned the ship, he's in one of these pods following this thing. And let's see, Bowman appears to be sucked into a black hole. You get the concept that he's almost entering the monolith, and he starts traveling at warp speed. All these colors are coming by, and patterns start to emerge. So he's transcending, he's becoming something greater. So you get the sense that the monolith, if the monolith is this thing that has always existed, it's this first cause sort of thing. It's this arche concept from the pre-Socratic, era, where we can see that the natural world can be looked to as the source of all things. So we have this monolith. Bowman is entering it. He's becoming one with it. So he is now becoming God. He is becoming the ruler of his own universe. So again, this Nietzschean concept of a will to power, a will to becoming your own God. He emerges on the other side of this time warp. So he's kind of going through all these colors. Everything's changing. His eyes are shown close up. His eyes are wide open. He's not blinking. So it's this concept of the all-seeing eye. He's becoming this all-seeing eye. His light enters through the eye, so he is seeing the light. He's evolving, and time and space are subjective, and everything's just kind of. And then he emerges on the other side of this time warp and into a new galaxy. It seems like it's this new galaxy. It's this new place. So we also here I get the concept that we have, how would you say, like a multiverse. So there's multiple universes, there's multiple aeons. So he's entering into this aeon, this infinite aeon. He appears to be reborn as a new entity. Close-ups of his eyes show him perceiving these things and changing. He arrives on the new planet where the color spectrum is everything different. It's all, his whole color spectrum is reversed. Physical forms are similar yet otherworldly in appearance. A close-up of his eye blinks and the colors change back to normal. So he's adapted to his new form. He's now so he's in the pod, and he just magically ends up in this strange museum-like place. We hear these robotic footsteps clanking, and Bowman sees himself outside of the pod, and his spacesuit and everything, and then he becomes this other Bowman. So it shows him looking at himself, and then he's out of the pod is gone, and now he's this new spaceman Bowman walking around this museum. He walks around this place for a minute. He sees this man eating at a table from behind. It's this old man. The man gets up, turns around, walks over, and then as he gets closer, you realize that this is Bowman in his old age. This space Bowman then disappears, and old Bowman takes over this version now. So he's becoming these different versions of himself that he's seeing in this place. He sits back down, starts to eat, breaks his dinner glass, goes down to clean up the shattered glass, and he turns and he sees a bed, and he sees this even older version of himself lying in the bed. He becomes this older version of himself. The other older Bowman disappears again. He's laying in this bed. At the end of this bed, we see a glowing fetus-like thing hovering in the middle of the room. And then we see the monolith, and we enter into the monolith. The monolith and the fetus are now in alignment with Bowman, and he becomes the fetus, he becomes the monolith, and then he goes back into his universe, floating outside of Earth, and the fetus is shown floating outside of the Earth and looking down on the Earth, emotionless, and in this godlike sort of way, like he has become the universe itself, or the creator or the origin of the universe. So thus spoke Zarathustra plays again. We're left with the sense that Bowman's final form was the fetus. He is truly reborn as god of his own universe. The Nietzschean concept of a will to power is fulfilled. Bowman was essentially encapsulated with all of the characters before him who had the courage to face the monolith. The evolution from the dawn of man, the ape, through Floyd, to the moon, to Bowman, defeating/merging with the perfect AI that is Hal. So he's merged with Hal 9000. Man overcame all the obstacles by transcending the ultimate obstacle of moral law that has plagued mankind throughout history. Man himself is the essence of free will to the degree that he is able to deny his own nature and become like God in order to become God. Man's journey through time and space ultimately allows him to enter into the mind of God, which is fulfilled in the Platonic sense of the dualistic dialectical tension, where the metaphysical forms hold absolute universal truth, and transcendence is achieved by breaking through all that is empirically verifiable, thus entering into the mind of the Creator, becoming ageless, all-knowing, all-seeing, ever-present, containing the qualities and attributes of the omnipotent Creator God. Time is subjective throughout the film, where we almost get the sense that since every scene takes place in a different universe, that it's all occurring simultaneously. It's possible that human life on Earth has been wiped out, and that Floyd, Bowman, and the ape are having these experiences concurrently rather than throughout history. That could be seen even different versions of the same being expressed in different realities. Man is both a mere unevolved monkey and the ultimate omnipotent godlike star child transcending time all at once. Man has the ability to be his own messiah. He is the alpha and the omega of his own reality, which is relative to the experience of the individual perceiving it. In the end, it's the cyclical nature of the universe that supersedes all individual experience. Fate is inevitable. Everything is determined to eventually start over again. The notion of eternal return, where we will all inevitably return back to the one that is the star child, to watch our story happen all over again from the perspective of some individual rational being which exists merely by chance to watch itself watching itself. So that is my analysis of 2001 A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick.